Welcome back to MSP After Hours, where we say the quiet part out loud. Today, we're talking about something that's probably going to divide the room. Should MSPs outsource their help desk? And here's my position up front. If your long term strategy is to outsource your help desk, you might be building a disconnected MSP. Now, before that gets clipped out of context, I'm not saying never. There are short term situations where this makes sense. There are after hours scenarios where it makes sense. And there are vendor managed layers that absolutely make sense. To be fair, outsourcing does have some real upsides, like slashing costs through predictable pricing, no hiring or training overhead, tapping into expert talent pools for 24/7 coverage, and scaling flexibly during growth spurts without fixed staffing commitments. Studies do show MSPs can cut operational costs by 30 to 40%, while also freeing you to focus on core strategies. But there is a rub. Those benefits often come at the expense of control and client intimacy. But if the primary voice your clients hear when they need support isn't your company, you're outsourcing more than labor. You've changed how the client experiences your brand. You've outsourced the most consistent part of the relationship and handed control of the customer experience to someone outside of your organization. That's not just a staffing decision, that's a business model decision. Let's start with one man shops because context matters. There are really three versions of this. The first is the intentional solo operator. If you are a one man shop because you want to be and you truly do not want to grow, that's fine. If you're profitable, your clients are aligned, your lifestyle works, and you're not consistently stressed or resentful, then you've built exactly what you intended to build. But if you are intentionally solo, outsourcing your help desk long term makes very little sense. Your value is you. Your proximity is your advantage. Outsourcing your frontline in the model creates distance where your brand is built on closeness. If you're solo by choice, own the full stack. That is the identity. Now let's talk about the one man shop that wants to grow. If that's you, outsourcing can be a short term tool. It can give you breathing room. It can give you after hours coverage. It can give you space to sell and build process, but it has to be temporary. Sure, providers often promise ironclad SLAs for quick resolution, which can boost client satisfaction in the short run. Think of response times under 15 minutes. But remember, there is a downside potential loss of oversight, where you're dependent on their uptime and hidden cost if service quality dips below good enough. If you plan to grow, your pricing model must be built now to support internal hiring later. Because if your pricing model cannot absorb a full time tech one, competitive pay, benefits, tools, and still leave healthy margins, then you are building a ceiling into your building. If you want to grow, pricing must be structured to fund future payroll. Otherwise, you're not scaling a business, you're scaling stress. If your model only works when you personally carry the entire load, it is not a scalable business model. You're self employed. And sometimes I don't want to grow actually isn't about growth. Sometimes it's about fear of payroll, fear of hiring wrong, fear of losing control, fear of trusting someone else with your clients, or fear of quality slipping. If staying solo is intentional, own it. If it's avoidance, outsourcing long term will not solve that problem. Let me pause here because this is where most MSPs struggle. When I say your pricing model needs to fund future payroll, most owners agree, but they don't actually know how to build that. They know margins feel tight. They know hiring feels scary. They know they're working too hard for what they're making, but they don't have a pricing architecture. That's exactly why I wrote Profit by Design. I wrote it because I watched too many MSPs try to scale on pricing models that were engineered to win deals, not build businesses. If you don't know how to price in a way that allows you to truly afford hiring, invest in standards, and enforce refresh cycles and still protect margins, that's not a staffing issue. That's a design issue. You cannot find this book online. It's not on Amazon. If you are serious about fixing the foundation instead of outsourcing the symptoms, reach out to me directly and we can talk about how you can get a copy. Because outsourcing help desk without fixing pricing first is just putting a temporary patch over a structural crack. Now let's shift. This is not about the one-man shop anymore. This is about the MSP that already has staff. If you have techs and they are drowning, most owners think they need more labor. But most of the time, what they actually have is a design problem. Are environments standardized? Are refresh cycles enforced? Are users running with admin credentials? Are patches being applied, rebooting proactively? Are you supporting multiple stacks? Are you onboarding anything that breathes just to close the deal? If the architecture is chaotic, outsourcing help desk does not fix it. It just distributes the chaos somewhere else. Labor is where the pain shows up. Design is what broke it. For just a second, let's talk about real world fails. We have seen MSPs in the forums talk about churn rates spiking 20% after full outsourcing due to eroded trust and context, versus successes with tactical outsourcing like after hours only improves retention by leaning on provider specialized tools. So there is a benefit if you do something to add like after hours support where you're still managing it internally, validating the tickets. But there is quite this spike often seen when you do a full outsourcing of your support. Let me ask you something. Why would you outsource the very thing that helps you keep a pulse on your clients? Helpdesk is not just ticket resolution, it's proximity. We learn so much through our help desk. We learn when our clients are growing. We learn when there are frustrations in the building. We learn when systems are aging. We learn when there's an opportunity to deliver a new service or even upgrade existing services. That intelligence lives in your front line. And the last thing I am personally willing to do is outsource my front line of support. But I also understand my situation is not yours. I could support my clients myself. I have another business partner who could as well. But we could not support our clients and work on business at the same time. I do have 3 partners, and we chose to hire not because we were drowning, but because we wanted to grow. And we built our pricing model to afford to pay our technical team well. That was intentional. When MSP vendors outsource their own support, it rarely goes well. You see in the comments at MSP groups all the time. Response quality drops, context disappears, and frustrations build. Now think of that through the lens of your client. If you get frustrated when your vendors outsource support, what do you think your clients feel when you do it? Help desk is where relationships are reinforced. It is where we build trust, and it is where new service opportunities surface naturally. It is where patterns emerge long before churn happens. Why would you give that up lightly? Now, let's be clear. There is a right way to use outsourcing. When I supported radiology PAC systems, after hours radiology reads were performed by ER physicians. We called them wet reads. If a trauma case came in 2 a.m, the ER doctor was actually reading the study so that immediate decisions could be made. But that was not the final read. That study was put into a queue. The next morning, radiologists would come in, review the wet reads, create the official report, and formally close the study. Ownership never left the radiology department. That is the model. If you used outsource IT for after-hours support, those tickets should not simply get closed and disappear. They should be stabilized, documented, and flagged for internal review the next business day. Your team reviews the tickets. Your team follows up. Your team confirms satisfaction. Your team owns the experience. Outsource the wet read. Do not outsource the final report. After-hours sourcing can be leveraged, but it must support your system, not replace your ownership. Best practice here? Vet providers for MSP-specific expertise, lock in SLAs for transparency, and tie it to your strategy. Don't just chase the cheapest option, or you'll end up with those regret stories we all hear about. Let's wrap this up. If outsourcing feels necessary, ask yourself whether it's a labor issue or a design issue. In a disciplined environment, one tech can handle far more than most MSPs think. When ticket volumes drop through standards and enforcements, margins begin to appear. When margins appear, hiring becomes possible. When hiring becomes possible, you keep control. Most MSPs don't have a labor crisis, they have a discipline crisis. Now, I am not anti outsourcing, but I am anti disconnection. And if you are building this for long term, that distinction matters. See you next time.